This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD via Zoom Jessica Buettner. She is with the Juniper Center and the Bridging the Gap Collective, and its nonprofit arm, Bridging the Gap Collective. How are you today, Jessica?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Very, very well. Jessica, please tell us your role in uh, the Juniper Network and Bridging the Gap Collective.
I'd be happy to. So basically, what I do is I am the marketing person. So I help with creating social media posts. I create marketing materials, like either online or physical marketing materials to present at like if I go to health fairs, I give those out to the attendants of the fair. And at the center itself, I also answer the phone call. So if anyone is interested in being part of us, either as a client or as a clinician or therapist themselves, then I help them out with that process and making sure that everybody is belonging to with each other and helping become a better version of themselves.
So, describe the work of Bridging the Gap Collective for our listeners who didn't catch some other interviews which we had with some of your team members.
Yes. So basically, Bridging the Gap Collective is a nonprofit organization where we help give mental health services to underprivileged or marginalized areas. We believe that everyone should get the mental health that they seek, like in terms of talk therapy or other counseling services. So we want to give them a safe space where they don't have to worry about, let's say, like insurance. So if they don't have any insurance or any way to provide payment for their mental health services, we give them a space to discuss anything that is on their mind when it comes to helping them become, like I said, a better version of themselves.
How great is this need?
This is a very great need, I think, in my opinion. There are so many people that I know personally who need help, like in terms of their mental health, and they either say, "Oh, maybe I don't have a good insurance to help cover for it," or "I am lacking the funds." So, when it comes to those type of needs, I really think that it's great. I know that even though I'm not a therapist myself, I know a bunch of other therapists who also seek therapy themselves. And because it's an never ending connection of therapists helping other therapists who help other clients or individuals everywhere. So the idea of building up one's mental health to have a better state of mind is always a universal need. And I am all here for it.
So for a therapist to find some help to support a patient, how does that work?
Could you maybe go a little bit more into the question?
You mentioned that there's that connection between a therapist and some other therapists, and then to help the patient as needed. So could you
Yes.
describe a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so here at the center and at the collective, we are all therapists helping each other out. So if there is a therapist who needs some guidance on like helping out a specific client with their specific needs, we all like interconnect with one another to get the guidance that we can give to the client themselves. And it's like a never-ending circle of help, and that's what we are all about here.
Yeah, because one person can't know everything, and then everybody has their own experiences, which might help others, right?
Yes, exactly. I know that a couple of people, they say, "Hey, I have this client who's dealing with so and so. Are there any like resources or even books that we can refer them to?" Because sometimes we like to give other resources like books and physical resources that they can rely on. And some of those resources are other websites too. So it's like a never-ending connection of everyone giving resources to one another, and it really spreads the message more about how important the message of keeping a positive mindset is.
Mhm. Can you give an example of helping a patient this way?
Yeah, so I know that recently that there have been a few therapy groups that are also trying to be reestablished here at the Juniper Center. One of those groups being a men's group therapy group. And so with that help, with a certain group, it's specifically geared towards older men. And it's important because it was interesting. I had someone come up to me recently and ask me like, oh, how is the ratio from like men to women who seek therapy? And so that's where I referred our group therapy session for men. And so I feel like every resource that we provide can definitely open someone's eyes to seeking another way to getting the mental health services that they need, either with us or, like I said, with like physical materials. I know a few clinicians have several book recommendations that they recommend to one another if they need to help out a specific client who is dealing with a specific issue that they may not be fully knowledgeable in.
Mm. And what is the ratio between men and women seeking mental help?
So I think the ratio is seven women to one man.
Oh,
That's what I was told recently. But we are all here to help out anyone, no matter what their sex or sexual orientation is or race. We have no filter here at the Juniper Center and at Bridging the Gap. We want to help out anyone and everyone who feels lost or needs a sense of direction in their life. And as an advocate myself of mental health, I personally have had mental health issues throughout my whole life. And that's why the main reason I was brought on and why I was interested in this position in the first place was as someone who has also struggled with mental health issues. I want to be the source or a source to help people get from point A of feeling lost to point B of weekly meetings with their therapists and seeing them improve as well.
when you how does so it's just that when a therapist needs additional resources, then they would reach out to another therapist. But are there organizations too that are short on therapists, and does the Bridging the Gap Collective help those?
So that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to
Uh,
build up more connections with other practices and other
mm,
services as well. I know that in recent, I was in connection with someone from P Flag. That's the letter P and then the word flag. That is a organization that is there to help advocate LGBTQ plus members of the community as well as its allies. I was in connections with the head of that recently, and they were all for our message about mental health as well as their message with mental health for LGBTQ plus individuals. And it's like that never ending connection of like when you find someone or an organization who has a similar message as you are and you connect with one another, it just makes that whole unity of spreading the message of mental health grander than it already is.
mhm. And for the Bridging the Gap Collective, it's a nonprofit arm of the Juniper Center. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically, when I was first brought on to the Juniper Center, Elise, who is the head of Bridging the Gap, she reached out to me and say, "Hey, I have this idea for a nonprofit organization. I would love for you to be on board." And as soon as she told me more information about what the nonprofit is all about, I was immediately on board. And because I've been an advocate of helping out other nonprofit organizations, like for example, in high school, I was a very advocate in community service and charity work and helping those who are in those marginalized areas. So in the process, Elise asked me to help create the logo for Bridging the Gap Collective
Mm.
and help find other people to join our collective and our share the message of our nonprofit organization to everyone. And it's just helped me really open my eyes to what mental health means to those underprivileged areas. And once I learned more and more about it, I was like, okay, yes, I am all here for helping spread the message of bridging the gap.
So you were in charge of finding the people to help with the Bridging the Gap Collective?
Yes. So when it comes to that type of process, basically Elise told me to find like one or two members of the Juniper Center who I thought would be a good fit for helping us out. And so I found a girl, her name is Emily. She is on the marketing team with me at Juniper Center, and I thought she would be a good fit as well because we work together a lot on the marketing and outreach materials. So she also helps me a lot with the marketing and outreach for the collective. So it's kind of like we work so well together already. Why not bring her on as well?
Mhm. And Bridging the Gap Collective, is that the name from you or from Elise?
Elise was the one who came up with the name.
Okay.
I was the one who helped create the logo. We decided the bridge because the bridge is a representation of having that connection of making sure that people who are in those areas, they get the help they seek without having to worry about, like I said, if they don't have insurance or costs to pay for the services that they seek. We help bridge that gap between them and the services they seek.
And how extensive is that gap?
It is a pretty extensive gap. There are a lot of people in a lot of underprivileged areas. I would say specifically in the Chicagoland area, there are a lot of suburbs and communities who are not on the best side, I would say, like in that marginalized area that I discovered as a Chicagoan my whole life. But I'm learning more and more about the places that I may not know about before. And seeing how all these people, they, like I said, they come up to me and say, they ask me the questions about if you don't have insurance or if you don't have any way to pay for the services, what can you offer? So that is where the opportunity for bridging the gap comes along. And we have built up an interesting clientele so far. I believe we have about 6 clients under our belt already. And I hope that that number continues to grow.
And who are the people that are treating these clients? Are they therapists or are they
Yes.
interns? Mm.
So they are therapists under the Juniper Center. We extended an invitation to Juniper Center clinicians who are willing to work with clients on a pro bono basis. So we have a handful of clinicians and therapists already who are helping us out, which is really, really great. And we hope that as time goes on and we build more of a clientele under our belt, we hope to find other therapists as well. And then in addition to the in-house therapists, we also have a few interns who are building their professional experience as well underneath us. And they are interns who are also seeking professional therapy work. And so with those internships, they help build up their profile under us.
How did the interns learn about you, or how did you find the interns?
So sorry, let me start over. So Emily is also in charge of the internship program. So she was able to build some marketing materials to present and send out to schools and universities. And then from those schools and universities, we've also had people call us and ask, hey, do you have any internship opportunities, either with the Juniper Center directly or some other way. And that from there, we say the Bridging the Gap is looking for internships. And we go through the normal process of interviewing them, seeing their background experience, and seeing if they are a good fit. And so far that we've seen a lot of amazing people who are interested in being part of our collective and our organization. And we hope to meet more and more people who are willing to help us with our mission.
Mhm. Are you able to find marginalized students to enter your internship program?
We hope to. I'm not entirely sure about the whole like the specifics of the interns as of right now, but from what I've heard that there is a wide umbrella of interns who are interested in being a part of our collective. They're come from various different backgrounds and various different experiences, and that's what we're all about. We're all about finding unique, different people who want to help us further spread our message to others.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for that because I know that we'll be discussing this further with Emily in the future.
Hmm.
When you uh, what is the most striking thing when people are working with the Bridging the Gap Collective versus the Juniper Center? Is more providing resources, or are you still able to provide mental health?
Yes, we are still able to provide mental health to everyone. It's all about being sure that you're willing to listen, because that's the key thing about being a therapist, is being willing to listen to anything that anyone has to say. And like I said previously, without any like judgments or anything like that. We're all human beings. We all have struggles in our own personal lives. Like I said before, including me, I've had a long history of my own struggles. And throughout my whole life, I have been judged by my peers, but I have never been judged by a therapist that I've seen. So that's what we're really all about. We're all about being able to provide those services without like having anyone judge you, because it's just the way that mental health is. And that's why I personally believe in that message.
Mhm. Well, it seems as if you're going to provide mental health help to someone, you can't judge that person. It goes against the very uh, mission of mental health help.
Exactly.
When so, have you had any intern under your wing since you're doing so much?
So last year, I did have one intern under my belt. It was my first time ever doing something like that, like being in charge of an intern, because throughout my life, I've been a part of internships underneath someone else. But this was like the first time I've ever had an intern under me. Her name was Adriana. She was just an amazing person. She helped me with a lot of the marketing materials for both the Juniper Center and for Bridging the Gap Collective. She was a very strong, motivated person. She was great. She was goal oriented and very motivated to help us with our message. I think about her every once in a while as we are finding more and more interns out there. But it was just really a really interesting experience, and I wouldn't mind doing it again, having like a marketing intern underneath me.
Mhm. When you were an intern, you probably had experiences and maybe thought about how the internship was going well or how it could have been better based on what you learned as an intern. How did you apply that toward helping Adriana?
Yeah, so my experience as an intern, I was very listening. I was listening very, very well to like the instructions that were being given to me. And I was never afraid to ask questions. And I think that's what a really strong asset that Adriana had. She was never afraid to ask any questions about any projects that I given her. So I feel like that was one very strong asset from my internship that I personally did, that Adriana applied very well. And I'm glad that we were both had the same mindset of never being afraid to ask for help or clarification on any assignments that were given.
So you're marketing for the Bridging the Gap Collective now, and what is the most difficult in marketing? What to market successfully? What can you give us a little insight
Yeah.
on how what hurdles do you have to overcome?
So some riddles that I have to overcome is finding the right audience to market to. Obviously, with the whole mental health message of our collective, I try my best to market to other clinics or other organizations who also share the message of mental health. But one prominent example is building up a presence online can be a little bit of a challenge. But I feel like a way to overcome that challenge is to create marketing materials that are appealing to everyone. I like to see what's kind of popular and trending in terms of social media and marketing, and then kind of like piggyback on that a little bit. I really like being able to get to know other people's stories through the world of social media. Like, for example, if there's like a comment on Facebook or Instagram post that really tells someone how grateful they are for the post that I made, or how appealing the post was, that shows that the message is being received in the way that it was intended to. And that's really the best reward at the end of the day when all the marketing materials and social media posts go out into the world.
Mhm. How difficult is it to speak to a wide audience? If you have the audience, how do you how do you uh economically, reach everybody
Yeah,
successfully?
so the best way I reach everyone is this is kind of something that is part of my job. I create a schedule for what posts go out on what day. So it's like we create a wide umbrella of different posts, whether that would be like discussing a certain important day, like that's related to the world of mental health, or if it's talking about internal actions that are either going on within the Juniper Center or within Bridging the Gap Collective. It's kind of like a back and forth as well. And something else that I also like to do is I like to share articles that are related to like various mental health issues, such as like trauma or other type of prominent issue, mental health struggle that's going on in our world. We like to share that and then give our input on it as well. Because like when we all look at the same thing, like a news article, for instance, we all have different opinions on it.
Mhm.
So when we share our voice about a particular article, that makes a person can make a person say, "Oh wow, I never thought about that way before. Let me look at this particular article again and think about it from that perspective." So when someone can look at something in a new perspective, that is another great takeaway from it.
Lately, I've been seeing a lot of these posts on social media, like people who prefer solitude as they get older usually display these 8 behaviors and all sorts of different articles about different people, and then how you could recognize those people. To to the um, ho- that a lot of that insight that they provide is related to the mental health well-being of these people that they're talking about. So, is there right now more of that information trying to get out to reach people to help them if they don't have enough money to pay for mental therapy?
Yes. Being able to see what people say online as a way to help oneself. Like there was a moment earlier today where I had to look up um certain ways to improve someone's memory because I received a phone call asking, "Hi, do you guys offer services for memory loss?" And while I said that we did not, I was able to get that person's email and then send them the resources, which include a bunch of articles with basic tips on how to improve one's memory loss. And you'll be surprised about how the simplest of advice that's mentioned in an online article can really help someone. And that can just go for everyday stuff. Like if someone doesn't know how to do a certain activity, they can easily go to online and say, "Hey, I need help with so and so. What can I find?" And based on what they find, they can get various results, and it can really develop into something that is greater than themselves.
Mhm. In other words, if people need help, it's good to reach out to people, but if necessary, uh, just surfing online and trying to find what information is out there and then processing it helps as well.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm. What about the people that you're trying to help? Do a lot of them realize that, or do they have to be taught by the Juniper Center or Bridging the Gap Collective in order for them to start accessing this resource?
So while getting resources online is a great start, some people like those preferences where they like to actually talk to someone because
Mhm.
that personal connection is really beneficial in some people's opinions. Like
Mhm.
for me personally, yes, I can go online and say, "Hey, I'm dealing with anxiety or depression. How do I cope with that?" While it is easy to go to those online sources, some people like to actually talk about it with someone to get that personal help and feedback, and then apply those tips into their everyday life. I know that, speaking from personal experience, the advice and feedback that I've been receiving from my therapist in the past few months has greatly changed me as a person, and I can already see myself as a better version of myself than what I was a few months ago.
Got it. So in other words, no matter what advice that people get online, it's always good to have a springboard of somebody else's opinion and someone else's experience to see whether that advice might be helpful or not, or to what extent that advice might be helpful that they find
Yes,
online.
very much so.
Mhm. Hey, Jessica Buettner, if you have more, if people want to learn more about the Juniper Center and also Bridging the Gap Collective, and they want to ask you further questions or learn more about these two organizations, where should they go?
Yes. So we have two main resources for to answer your questions. The websites are www.thejunipercenter.com, and then there's also bridgingthegapcollective.org. We are also active on Facebook and Instagram, and then my email address, if anyone wants to ask questions directly, it is my first and last name, Jessica Buettner at thejunipercenter.com.
And please spell Buettner for our
Yes,
audience.
it is B as in boy, U, E as in Edward, T as in Tom, T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, E-R.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jessica Buettner, for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today. And good
Thank you
luck
so much
with
for
your work and
having
thank
me.
you for your work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.